welcome to the 2024 American Craft Council Awards celebration. I'm Andrea Specht, and it's truly my honor to serve as ACC's executive director. The people we have gathered to recognize are luminaries in our field: artists, designers, makers, creators, culture bearers, craftspeople, leaders who share the American Craft Council's belief that making can change the world, and share the value that ACC places in what is shaped by the human hand and marked by the human spirit. I'm eager to introduce and celebrate those leaders, and we'll do that soon. I'm speaking to you today from St. Paul, Minnesota, located on the ancestral and contemporary lands of the Dakota and Anishinaabe people. This place has a complicated and layered history, including the thousands of years that the Dakota and Anishinaabe have been in relationship with these lands, and the several hundred years since European settlers colonized them. The United States land seizure was a project of destruction that denied the Dakota and Anishinaabe unhindered access to land that is at the heart of their identity and lives. We pay tribute to the Dakota and the Anishinaabe, and we invite you to consider the legacies of the land on which you live, particularly through critical reflection and conversation with your community. As we enjoy this celebration together, we ask that you remember a few basic Zoom courtesies. Please make sure that your camera is off and your audio is muted until the very, very end of the event, when we will invite some audience participation. You absolutely are welcome and encouraged to share your words of praise and excitement with our award recipients via the chat feature, where you can leave written comments. Closed captioning is available during this program. On the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a CC symbol. Clicking that button will turn closed captioning on and off. Also, this program will be recorded and available for future viewing. I'd like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the American Craft Council staff, particularly Rachel Messerich, who manages the ACC Awards program, and our intrepid colleagues, Tracy Lamperty and Maddie Lay, who are running the behind-the-scenes tech as I speak. Thank you to our generous and committed ACC trustees and the members of our awards committee, who will soon be introduced by my co-host, Tom Lozier. ACC is a nationwide membership-based nonprofit, and on behalf of the staff and board, I thank all of our members and donors. If you are not a member, please join our expanding community, welcoming all who believe that making creates a meaningful world. This celebration is made possible by the Minnesota State Arts Board, which provides generous operating support for the American Craft Council, and by the Windgate Foundation, which has been a transformational funder for ACC and the field of craft. I'm also grateful for and excited to tell you about new funding for the ACC Awards program from the Maxwell Hanrahan Foundation. For the first time in the history of this program, we are able to provide cash awards to people we are honoring for their work as hands-on practitioners in craft. These cash awards, $20,000 for each gold medal recipient and $5,000 for each ACC fellow, constitute unrestricted support to sustain their creative practices. Thank you again to the Maxwell Hanrahan Foundation, the Windgate Foundation, the Minnesota State Arts Board, and all of our donors and members for your generous support. It's now time to thank and introduce my co-host and friend, Tom Lozier. And while I would love to say a few more words about Tom's deep connections to craft, ACC, and our awards program, I would then step on the script that he generously shared with me before this program. So without further ado, I am pleased to turn the virtual podium over to Tom.
Am I ready to start?
You're ready.
Okay. I'm Tom Lozier. I'm a woodworker, furniture maker, an ACC fellow, and a current trustee, and I'm honored to be the current chair of the ACC Awards Committee. The American Craft Council Awards began as a way to recognize those individuals and organizations who are advancing the field in a myriad of ways. One of the most valuable aspects of the ACC Awards program is that it has this long history that deepens with every new award cycle. The first gold medal for consummate craftsmanship was given in 1970. The College of Fellows inducted its first awardees in 1975. Scrolling through the entire list of awardees, which one can do anytime on the ACC Awards webpage, generates a powerful timeline of the evolution of the craft field. Be careful, as that webpage is very rewarding and potentially extremely time-consuming rabbit hole. The committee's selection process for the awardees we're recognizing today involves individual research and deliberation by each committee member, which is then followed up by engaged and passionate discussion amongst the group to arrive at our selections. This year, the awardees are amazing, envelope-expanding, inspirational, and risk-taking creative forces. The American Craft Council is honored to celebrate this stellar group of awardees as they continue to create the evolving history of the craft field. Today, we'll recognize a total of 14 individuals, the 3 gold medalists. The gold medal is an honor bestowed only on those who were previously became fellows. We're also honoring 9 fellows and 2 honorary fellows. All were nominated by their colleagues and peers in the field and selected by an awards committee made up of previous awardees. This year, the committee is Susan Cummins, Karen Hampton, Mary Lee Hu, Carolyn Maslumi, Catherine Gray, and Chris Guston. We would like to thank this wonderful force field of a committee for their time, passion, and dedication to the difficult sifting process and to this program. I also want to acknowledge ACC staff person extraordinaire, Rachel Meserick, who is really the brains behind this whole awards operation. She has an encyclopedic knowledge about the history and the smallest details of the awards program, and she uses that broad understanding to continually and sensitively improve the program from cycle to cycle. Thank you, Rachel. Don't ever think about getting a different job. It's been a pleasure working with you. Today, the award recipients will be introduced by members of the awards committee, as well as 2 guest presenters, Bruce Pepich and Jennifer Zwilling, who have strong connections to the awardees they will be presenting. In addition, today's event will recognize the 2 recipients of the Award of Distinction and the recipient of the Eileen Osborne Webb Award for Philanthropy. These awards are nominated and selected by the ACC Board of Trustees and will be presented by Andrea Speck, the Executive Director, and Gary Smith, the Chair of the Board of Trustees. This year, we continued the trend started in the last 2-year cycle of recognizing a bigger group of awardees than is the historical precedent of this program. The 2 most recent versions of this committee did this in appreciation of the large cohort of artists representing decades of creative leadership that have clearly earned this honor many times over. This bigger cohort is also an indication that we recognize and acknowledge that we are still not even close to being able to celebrate all of the artists that deserve this honor. The awards committee makes its selection from a list of nominated candidates. The nominators that submit those names for consideration are the pool of previous award recipients. Additionally, in recent cycles, we've included a small pool of rotating invited nominators with the goal of increasing the range and diversity of the nominee pool. One interesting aspect of the program is that the awards committee, of course, considers the 2024 nominations, but also looks backwards at previous years to see who might have been nominated over several award cycles. None of the awardees that we are celebrating today is receiving this recognition based on just a single nomination. They have all been pushed to the fore by numerous nominators and in multiple award cycles. We're going to start by watching an 11-minute video that briefly introduces each awardee and focuses on how they got started as a maker. Later, towards the end of the program, we'll see another slightly longer video that gives us a small peek into aspects of each awardee's creative practice. These terrific videos were put together by Chikara Motomura, pulling brief excerpts from longer video interviews with each artist. We hope that what you see and hear today about each awardee will tempt you to then venture to the awards page of the ACC website, where each awardee has an individual profile page, which includes a written profile and a great set of images of the artist's work and additional hot links if you want to dig deeper. After the second video, the awardees will all be invited on camera to open the physical award that they each received by snail mail. And then all of you that are here on this Zoom will be invited on camera for a fun and chaotic toast and social time. Thanks for being here, and let's get started with the first video.
in elementary school, I've always been interested in the arts. Being a deaf student and not being able to hear, I realized that art was something that I was really good at and felt confident in. So that was something that stayed with me since I was a child.
I loved art in high school. And from there, I was accepted to the University of Michigan's School of Art, where I did my first 2 years of undergraduate study. But I finished undergraduate studies at Cranbrook Academy of Art, working with Gerhard Nodell in the fiber department. And his enthusiasm for textiles was so compelling. Gerhard and others of the then emerging international fiber art movement were profoundly affecting as mentors.
And I think it was in 92, the Rodney King incident. Prior to that, I'm being an artist and trying to find my way and having shows here and there. And I felt like, a gypsy. I felt like this sort of person that was sort of this nomad that was just sort of moving about, trying to sort of settle somewhere, but wasn't so sure where that would be. And then in 92, everything turned upside down.
Well, glass blowing, I took a job in 1978 with a commercial lamp worker, Kemp Curtis, and he decided out of the blue to start teaching me basic production of little glass figures. The following year, I entered Cal State University, Long Beach, to go to the art school there, and they happened to have glass blowing, which was, you know how it is. It's never or plan or intention. You just stumble upon it and you go, "Wow, this is the sculpting medium for me."
Yeah, and for me, being 3.5 years younger than comics, I decided in high school that I wanted to also pursue the arts, and comics was already going to Long Beach State Universities and was teaching me some lamp working, which we made the little figures and things we made for crystal shops. That's how we survived through our college years.
So I went back to school as a drawing and illustration major. And I went through and got ready to get my degree. And my very last semester, I took a jewelry class. And it totally turned my world around. It was incredible. It was exactly what I realized it was exactly what I should have been doing all along.
I feel that my parents gave us a real grounding in respecting yourself. I can remember an incident when I was quite young, preschool, and my mother and I were shopping downtown, and I don't know what precipitated it, but she said to me, there are people who aren't going to like you because of the color of your skin. And she said, that's their problem. And that was a very liberating message to a young Black person.
For 10 years, I was a potter, and then I got tired of packing up my pots and going to shows and fairs. And so I said, I really need to open a place where I can sell my work and the work of other people. After I had freehand for about 16 years, I took my son, Noah, on a camping trip around the country, but we also stopped at every artist who I knew from freehand. When I was on that trip, I realized that craft was still under the radar in our country. People needed to know about it, and how could we do that? How could we expand the audience and the information? And I said, we have to put it on television.
I was working for the Department of Cultural Affairs. We had a program called Make a Banner, Fly a Banner. Staff was given the challenge to kind of participate as a fun project and start cutting out fabric and creating a sort of a narrative sort of design. And I took it to a tailor. He wanted $100 to sew this little scrap thing together. And I said, no way. So I decided to pick up a needle and thread and actually just do a in and out, in and out. And when it was all finished, I was amazed at how nice it looked and then how easy it was to put together.
I was an art history major as an undergraduate. And during my senior year of college, I took a seminar on the decorative arts. It was mostly historical decorative arts, but I fell in love with the material and decided this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to study it. I want to research it. I want to write about it. I'd like to work in a museum where I can engage in these, with these materials.
Once I arrived at Tyler and began to work earnestly, it was something that I just could not pull myself away. It was addictive. It was something that I was very passionate about. I wanted to achieve as much as I could in terms of skill sets, learning how to fire kilns, learning how to throw on the wheel, of course, learning the history of ceramics. All of those things just became my life. I was so committed to learning this medium.
When I went to college, I was studying painting actually, and was required to take electives in other departments. And my roommates had taken an elective in the fiber department, and they made all sorts of really great things with dyeing and other things. And thought, well, that looks like a fun elective. So the next semester I took an elective in the fiber department, and I met Jane Lackey there, and she taught me to weave, and I learned dyeing, and the next semester I transferred into fiber.
I had the good fortune to be in a program with Zelda Wynn Valdez, who was a couturier, and she took a group of us young people and taught us pattern making and taught us fine sewing, and so I was sure after being trained with her that I was going to go into design. My parents had other thoughts. They said, "What are you going to do as a designer?" And so I ended up getting 3 degrees in anthropology, but really focused on dress and focused on craft and the culture of makers, as well as the culture of people who use the things that are made. And that's been kind of a through line in my research.
I was a 19-year-old student at IAIA, and I remember the counselor that was working with me at the time and helping me get my classes and everything suggested that I should take the traditional pottery class, that I would be a really good fit in there, and that this one amazing lady, Atelier Lolema, was worked very well with young men like me who are struggling to find direction in life. And we instantly clicked. She became the grandmother figure, the matriarch in my life. And she was actually, I would say, the first adult that ever really truly believed in me.
I studied architecture for my undergraduate degree back in Japan, but soon I found architect is not really a maker or creator, but more designer. And so I looked around, and then I found private school, Shinrin Takumijiku, in the mountain area called Takayama. And I just fell in love with it. As soon as I walked into the studio, I just felt this is it. So
I owned a gallery with my brother for 26 years, where we featured contemporary craft and two-dimensional artwork. And at one point, it became very clear that craft was not an accepted form of art or fine art. And it made me a little crazy. So I called my brother one day and I said, let's start a museum and incorporate craft and design. And he laughed at me, as brothers do. and said, I thought of it, but I don't know what to do. And I said, oh, I've been on a board, I can figure it out. And I can raise some money. And I really, true confession, I had no idea what I was getting into or what I was doing.
I have always appreciated craft. And years ago, a dear friend of mine called me and said that the American Craft Council was moving to Minneapolis in 2010, and she was going to get her dream job there. And she said, you should probably come and get involved. They're a great organization. So I started attending events and moved on to finance committee as a non-board member. And then as we move forward, I ended up on the board for many years, and then as a board chair.
Hello? Okay. Hello, Nick. I am introducing Nick Cave, a man who needs no real introduction at this point. My knowledge and fangirl fare of Nick Cave extends back to the late 80s when he was one of the only brown faces in any of the craft magazines. And I personally tracked his career, his wonderful movement, his way of incorporating the body, the human elements of digesting self in society. And I just really want, if you're not familiar with Nick, I hope that you just open your door and start looking. Go, if you don't get to see him in a museum, go and see him at 42nd Street in New York, and go and see the incredible movement that is instilled on those walls. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Wendy. I'm going to jump right in. Wendy Maruyama currently has a career retrospective show on view at the Fresno Museum of Art. It unpacks the evolution of her practice over more than 5 decades. An overwhelming takeaway from experiencing that show is that Maruyama continually reinvents her creative practice, consistently moving on from successful investigations to tackle completely new challenges and passions. Maruyama's studio practice has been exceptionally productive since she joined the College of Fellows in 2008, including several bodies of work that operate as social practice projects. A new element in this work is the creation of community around the making process. The TAG project that began in 2012 addresses the despicable history of Japanese internment camps set up in 1942 under Executive Order 9066. The TAG project generated 120,000 new handmade tags representing the original tags that were required to be worn during transit to the camps. Mariama coordinated working sessions where groups came together to make tags and talk, a Maruyamian version of a quilting bee. Notably, these groups included hundreds of members of the San Diego Japanese American community that were directly impacted by Order 9066. When the completed tags were sent back to Maruyama, she bundled the tags into 10 large, visually powerful hanging objects that tie a hard-to-comprehend number to actual individuals, honoring each of their identities. The problem with focusing on just one of Maruyama's projects is that it leaves out so many other aspects of her artwork. There's little humor and delight in the tag project, but subversive humor and joy are frequently core aspects of Maruyama's creative practice. Her Mickey Macintosh chair helps make the point. Anyone studying furniture making will discover Charles Rennie Macintosh's chair designs, and they're a real problem because there's no possibility in the world of out-Macintoshing Macintosh. But Maruyama actually figured it out. Her Mickey Macintosh finesses the situation through a sublime mashup of reverence for the brilliance of Macintosh and her love for popular culture, especially as filtered through the worldview of Southern California. Mickey Macintosh looks simple, but it's not. It can only be the creation of an artist with a big picture perspective of how seemingly disparate elements can cohere into a new and transcendent design solution, honorific of its source, but also not so reverential that it can't poke fun at the rigid hierarchies of design history. I haven't even talked about her free-ranging, adventurous, and deeply exploratory use of color. It's everywhere and magical in her body of work. I could go on for hours talking about Wendy, but I've run out of time. So please join me in congratulating Wendy Maruyama.
Thank you.
Hi, Anne. It's a great pleasure for me to talk about you and your work this afternoon. In recent decades, some contemporary fiber artists have used the basics of their field, such as weave structures and needle techniques, as a springboard for creating an array of groundbreaking contemporary art that, while rooted in a textile foundation, transitions into works that extend far beyond the products of the loom. Ann Wilson has been and continues to be one of the leaders in this movement. She has received broad national and international recognition for her leadership role in moving from stitching, crocheting, and knitting to a wide range of media, and creates sculpture, drawings, performances, and video animations to explore themes of time, loss, memory, and private and social rituals. She created 2 large series of works in which she took found household bed and table linens and either fashioned fake stains or mended holes with needlework in which she used hair instead of thread. In these works, hair connects us to an array of associations, including beauty, aging, and personal memorials. Her use of household linens comes with connotations to domesticity and family life, reminding us of our individual and shared personal histories. Anne has expanded the scale of her work to include large installations in which she stages structures made of found lace that she has manipulated, inspired by the networks found in electronics, biology, and urban sprawl. In performative pieces, she has invited museum guests to work together to weave a bolt of cloth over 75 feet long to think about our shared history of labor. She has also choreographed thread walking performances creating conceptual movement based upon the processes of weaving. The breadth of Anne's body of work means that she regularly exhibits both within the craft field and more frequently in contemporary art museums. I have followed her work for decades. I find that every time I catch up to where she is conceptually, she advances ahead, continuing to set the pace for me to breathlessly tag along to learn new ways of looking at the world because of the brilliant way her mind works. That, coupled with her graceful implementation of her ideas, truly deserves the recognition of this gold medal.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm really honored. My sincere gratitude to the American Craft Council and everyone who participates in the vision of the ACC. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Sid.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I'm so excited today. So I guess I'm supposed to jump right in. I believe that Sid Carpenter is one of the great artists of our time. She's at the height of her career and has produced powerful, deeply meaningful bodies of work that continue to evolve. Joining the ranks of the American Craft Council Fellows is an honor that she richly deserves. I had the pleasure of meeting Sid first when I worked at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, but I had already been teaching about her in my History of Craft course at Tyler School of Art, her alma mater, and I was a very large fangirl. I think that's the second use of that term today. I was seriously in awe of her and her artwork. She was gracious and made me feel at ease immediately. In my role now as the curator of the Clay Studio in Philadelphia, I have the honor of having had many deep conversations with Sid, witnessing her caring interactions with her students at Swarthmore, and I've had the joy of installing her work in our gallery. Sid's research during her career has focused on many things: her grandmother's fame as a Victory gardener during World War II, her mother's gardening talent, and on Black-owned family farms thriving in the South. She doesn't flinch from the painful and heartbreaking aspects of these farm histories, but her powerful sculptures abstract the narrative to communicate emotions and celebrate the generative concept of the farmers, their places, and what those spaces contain. Combining botanical imagery and vernacular forms like clothes, pins, tools, fences, buildings, and vessels, Sid's sculptures offer an evocative statement of creativity and resilience by representing in sculpture the importance of African American stewardship of the land that has not been fully celebrated in our mainstream culture. Creative placemaking is a relatively recently coined phrase, but Sid's series of farm portraits began exploring the importance of place well before it was an art world buzzword. She led the way, and the work continues to be highly relevant. Recently, Sid has started a new body of work that celebrates nature and place through her sculptures using clay, as well as the land itself. These new works celebrate the Hugel form, agriculture, that which sustains us. They represent what it means to be human, creating places for offering and receiving the sustenance of knowledge. It is thrilling to anticipate what Sid Carpenter's art practice will yield as she continues this line of inquiry and form making. Congratulations, Sid.
Thank you, Jennifer. I am so bolstered by this award, so honored and thankful to the ACC for allowing me to express myself and to reward me for it. So thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Maslumi, and I'm an independent curator and 2023 ACC Honorary Fellow. And I've known Michael Cummings for almost 40 years, not only as a friend and a colleague, but also as curator of his work. Michael is renowned for his vibrant and expressive story quilts. His work often combines traditional quilting techniques with contemporary themes, conveying personal narratives and cultural stories through fabric. He uses a variety of materials, including cotton fabrics and some very unconventional, and I repeat, very unconventional items that you wouldn't expect to ever find in a quilt, to create visually striking pieces that reflect not only his experience, but his heritage. His quilts often address issues such as identity, history, and social justice, blending his artistic expression with storytelling. His quilts reflect African-American history and culture and provide us with a visual narrative that highlights experiences that are often unrepresented in mainstream art. This makes his quilts not only beautiful, but also very thought-provoking. His quilts encourage dialogue about sometimes very difficult topics. And the many subjects of his quilts include Josephine Baker and Harriet Tubman, Langston Hughes, Barack Obama, jazz music, and historical events in African-American history and the African diaspora experience. By blending traditional quilting techniques with contemporary themes, Michael pushes the boundary of textile art, and he elevates quilting to a higher artistic status and showcases its potential as a medium for storytelling. Michael honors the legacy of quilting. He honors the legacy of quilting with his many exhibitions, and I have watched over the years your many honors, including the National Endowment for the Arts National Heritage Award, which you received last year. Michael has been committed for over 40 years to visualizing the story of the African-American experiences. And these stories build us up as a people, filling us with pride, joy, and love. You also share the true and often untold stories of our pain and trauma. This makes up the body of your work, and your signature use of bold colors and choices is unique to you. His quilts can be found in numerous museum and corporate collections, and in the tradition of the African griot, Michael Cummings' quilts tell our story. As a result of his masterful creativity, he has become one of America's premier quilt makers. A griot, for those that don't know, is a West African storyteller or historian who preserves the oral traditions and history of their community. Michael, you are our modern day griot. And I love you. And I can't wait to see what else you produce. I'm looking forward to it. So, everyone, please join me in congratulating Michael Cummings.
Hello, buenos dias, Einar and Hamex. As you can probably tell, there's a lot of superlatives being bandied around today by so many amazing candidates. And I have the distinct honor of being able to celebrate two people and doubling my pleasure, if you will. Einar and Hamex de la Torre are two artists that came out of a glass tradition whose output now straddles so many different areas. In the same way that they might describe their work as pantheistic, their practice is pan-disciplinary. Their collaborations have included discrete, unique sculptural objects, large-scale installations, multimedia extravaganzas, public art commissions, and a recent ginormous survey exhibition that was the inaugural show at the Cheech Marin Center for Chicano Arts and Cultures, located in Southern California here in nearby Riverside. And I will just add that the Cheech, as it's familiarly known, has quickly become a cultural linchpin in the region, and it's in no small part due to the popularity of the brothers' well-received opening exhibition there. If you are not familiar with their work, they incorporate blown and solid sculpted glass, collected and modified found objects, high and low references to pop culture figures, political icons. Their work touches on environmental and social ills, capitalism and religion. Everything is fair game, and it all kind of comes together seamlessly in their oeuvre. The exhibition that's touring, Kaleidoscope, the De La Torre Brothers Retro Perspective, and I will also just put in a word that I love all of their wordplay and puns in their titles, and the Spanglish and the back and forth between their Spanish and Mexican heritage as well as their American heritage. That exhibition, anyways, is currently at the Corning Museum of Glass in New York State, but has or will be traveling to 5 other venues in the US. In addition, they have won the USA Artists Fellowship Award, the Louis Comfort Tiffany Award, a Joan Mitchell Foundation Award, and the San Diego Art Prize. They've had 18 solo museum exhibitions, completed 8 major public art projects, and have participated in 4 biennials. But really, I just want to say that there probably isn't a glass hot shop in a university arts program, such as where I teach, or a summer craft school, or a public access glass studio where the brothers have not been invited to demonstrate and just generously share their life view, their techniques, and have left their indelible mark. Traveling far and wide, they have shown multitudes, probably thousands at this point, not only how to be both serious in intent, yet unrestrained in fabrication, but also how to make your way in the world as an artist or craftsperson, always with your feelers out in the zeitgeist, always scanning the streets and the thrift stores for material, and always staying true to yourself and your vision. They have been blowing glass and blowing minds since way back, and I'm so excited that they are being honored here today. Please join me in congratulating them.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and a heartfelt thank you to all the work that the American Craft Council does. Yeah, we were very, very surprised and humbled and deeply, deeply honored. Thank you.
Hi, Yuri.
Hi, Tom.
Yuri Kobayashi first honed her exceptional woodworking skills at Shinrin Takumi-juku in Takayama, Japan, which is a unique school that teaches Japanese woodworking skills in a vertically integrated curriculum that really has no equivalent in the US. When Kobayashi then moved to the US and started exhibiting and teaching, she brought a powerful breath of fresh air and inspiration into the woodworking field. A fellow woodworker describes Kobayashi's work as looking effortless. This is very true, but any woodworker that's ever touched a chisel can immediately tell you that it's exceedingly complex and challenging work to build. It only looks effortless because Kobayashi puts in the focused hours of problem solving and technical innovation to find the solutions necessary to build her unique visions and forms. Kobayashi started as a functional object maker, but her more recent pieces are likely to be sculpture or installation driven. One of her many superpowers is her ability as a steam bender, allowing heat and moisture to render the wood flexible. Many pieces are fabricated from steam bent parts, often using coopering techniques that involve complex compound angles and constantly changing curves. While trying to unpack the construction systems Kobayashi is using, it's always a tempting challenge. It's supremely rewarding to just focus on the visual experience and appreciate her work strictly for her poetic, elegant, and original forms. Being from 2005 is a favorite piece of mine. It's a 9-foot tall, very delicate stick structure that incorporates functional drawers into the open grid work. This is a relaxed, irregular grid that actually swells out a centimeter or so at its belly and then contracts again, both at the bottom and the top. There are many hundreds, probably thousands of joints, and this repetition generates a slightly irregular rhythm that rewards letting the eye casually roam. One final thought, when looking at Kobayashi's work, watch for the shadows. The dark shadow forms generated by her pieces are spectacular and add dimensionality while also contextualizing the objects within architectural space. Another of Kobayashi's superpowers is that her work cannot be effectively imitated, as nobody else could generate her singular visual language or manage to build the structures, or most of all, capture the Kobayashi magic. So we're left with the tantalizing pleasure of waiting patiently for the completion of each new piece. Please join me in congratulating Yuri Kobayashi.
Thank you, Tom.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Karen.
It's so nice to see you so far away.
Yeah.
I'm here introducing Mark Newport. I want to talk about Mark as both a maker and an educator, because I feel like his life has been so full in both directions. I think that his most recent teaching stint, which was at Cranbrook, really left a major impact on the school. And I think that his style is really a gentle, touching, sensitive style, and one where you're looking at an artist looking at self and society and looking at expanse and contraction, and where we as artists all fit in. And when I think about his work, I think about his extraordinarily large, sensitized superhero figures. I think about, that projection of a child looking towards the future to see who they are and where they fit in. And then I think about his latest work, that I'm familiar with, which is his mending projects, which I think are just extraordinary. I think that his stitching onto itself and creating a new cloth is what comes to my mind with it. And I really say thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Karen. I'm really honored to get this award, and your words mean a lot. Thank you.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Yay. Michael Puryear's furniture requires careful looking and abandonment of all haste. The work is not loud and aggressive, but exquisitely subtle. Puryear works towards clarity of form and balanced proportion. He gets it right so that there's nothing jarring or attention grabbing. And if you spend time with a piece, there's much to appreciate. And often those special qualities reveal themselves slowly. Prominent design influences include Japanese, Scandinavian, African, and Shaker culture and visual arts and imagery. But each design is run through Puryear's active mind and skilled hands and comes out as a wholly original piece that both honors the history and the source while offering us new insights and interpretations. If you tried to hide Puryear's Dan chair within the camouflage of an African Decorative Arts Museum display, it would not work. This chair gives off a glow of originality that anyone looking even halfway carefully would recognize as setting this chair apart. Its proportions nod towards the history of low to the ground seating, but Puryear seems to have absorbed and processed every example of seating in this genre, and then produced a version that contains and stands for all of them as a unified whole. Through form and material and name, the Dan chair acknowledges the links between Africa and colonial slaveholding America. The chair is built from poplar harvested at Monticello and pecan wood harvested at Mount Vernon, while the name refers to the Dan people of the West African slave coast. Yet one of my favorite details in this piece is Japanese. Puryear incorporates a traditional Japanese technique into the legs of the chair. Ukibori is a way of rendering raised imagery on a wood surface. It's a complex process that in its final step causes the wood to swell and expand, revealing the imagery. In this case, rope burns from lashing or bondage that on the legs of the Dan chair render the wood powerfully skin-like. To get the full experience of seeing this chair in person, you will in fact need to see it in a museum display because it is in the collection of the Smithsonian's Museum of African American History and Culture, and you will not have any trouble picking it out. Michael, we're all looking forward to seeing what comes next. And please join me in congratulating Michael Puryear.
Thank you, Tom. And I really feel honored to be in this group.
Hi, Diego. As a longtime believer that humor and satire have a rightful place in fine art, I'm very pleased to speak today about Diego Rivera Romero. Poking fun can defuse the antagonism of a confrontation and become an effective way for an artist to enable viewers to stop and actually think about serious topics that can seem overwhelming to them. Diego is adept at combining a variety of ceramic traditions, including the materials and techniques of Native American pottery and the figurative surface decorations of ancient Greek vessels in which everyday people were elevated to the heroic. He uses these historic inspirations to comment on serious contemporary issues such as politics, the environment, and racism. Diego approaches these topics by employing ancient methods to create vessels that depict scenes from contemporary life. By using imagery heavily influenced by his excursions in comic book stores in his youth, he makes lively juxtapositions between old and new. His careful blending of these elements creates works that are amusing and surprising, but not jarring. The mashups Diego forms between high and low art forms mingle many cultures and periods while injecting humor into the conversations he initiates, encouraging our openness. Diego sees himself as a chronicler of the absurdity of human nature, placing him well within our history of social and political satirists who have created books, visual art, performances, and political cartoons to focus our attention on society's ills and challenges through their humorous critiques. I admire Diego's work for its intellectual foundation and for his deftness in maintaining a balance as he blends the past with the present. I firmly believe you can encourage people to stop and listen when you help bring them into the dialogue. Diego helps us become comfortable with these sometimes difficult conversations as he asks us to smile and then take a clear-eyed look at an issue and at ourselves. Congratulations, Diego.
Thank you, Bruce. It's an honor to be here today and in such distinguished company.
Hi, Linda. I first met Linda in the summer of 1976 when I went to the Somerville Symposium for the first time. And of course, got to know her later over the years from SNAG conferences and the UMA symposiums. Linda is one of those persons of a smaller stature who have huge amounts of energy, so much of which she wants to give to support her community and our fields. She loves people, teaching, travel, and making. Linda taught at Cabrillo College and says she loved teaching at a community college because of the varied student population. People of all ages and backgrounds come from the surrounding community. They become her friends and colleagues and all contributed over the years to making their local arts community stronger. Community college teaching is intensive, but Linda always found time to volunteer for many local arts organizations in addition to her studio work, including working for 12 years to help the city of Santa Cruz realize the very major project of turning a former tannery complex into 200 live-work spaces for artists. But Linda says she is most happy when making personal works reflecting on her visual experiences. She describes it as biography, images recalled from her surroundings, from her backyard garden to walks in her neighborhood to cross-country or foreign travel. It has evolved from more literal descriptive images to, as she says, metaphor, images to conjure up her feelings about places, people, and experiences, setting sculptural brooches onto drawings as context, or using the charm bracelet format for poetry. Most of her work is small, therefore intimate, and presented gently, quietly, open and accessible, welcoming contemplation. To learn more about Linda and her work, the catalog from her recent retrospective is available from the Metals Museum in Memphis. Congratulations, Linda. I'm very honored to be able to talk about you.
Mary. I appreciate so much what you said and also what's happened with the ACC. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Hello, Diana.
Hello, Kara.
It is a great honor that I am introducing Diana Baird and Jai. Diana has had a wonderful career, having a wonderful career as she's letting herself be more and more of a maker, as she has spent so many years championing African-American and African artists and really sharing the cultures of the diaspora. As a senior curator at the Smithsonian, Diana has has made the world of world craft visible. Something that for has just sat in the background. And for me, I was always wondering why the most beautiful things are being made around the world. And when I was to see Diana and her work, I was really able to first feel that, oh my God, there's someone championing this brilliance. And that for me, it's very personal. It's the combination of being an artist and also being an anthropologist, and being able to give words as well as the recognition of the work that really, really to me says so much about why we should all know and honor Diana's work.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Karen. And thank you to the American Craft Council for this wonderful honor in humbling and inspiring company. And I applaud the ever-expanding scope of the ACC's work and how ACC is taking up also the baton to expose us to a much richer and diverse craft community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'd like to introduce you to Cindy Strauss, who is an honorary fellow this year. She is the Sarah and Bill Morgan Curator at the Department of Arts, Crafts, and Design at the Houston MFA. In that capacity, she has brought into the museum the fiber art collection of Carol Strauss in 2002, the contemporary jewelry collection of Helen Drutt in 2004, the ceramics collection of Garth Clark and Mark Del Vecchio in 2012, and the contemporary craft collection of Leatrice S. and Melvin B. Eagle in 2014. Together, these collections mark the pinnacle of studio craft in the 20th century, which means that the Houston MFA can now claim to be one of the best museums in the field, with about 2,500 objects representing all genres that fall under the umbrella term of craft. She's also produced substantial catalogs for each of these collections, filled with research and essays, and they add immensely to the field. The importance of this kind of legitimizing can't be overstated. Studio craft has not always understood the need for or given any special weight to the documentation of its own histories, and thus much has been lost. Through her catalogs and exhibitions, as well as collecting the objects themselves, Cindy has preserved these histories, trawling through archives and interviewing makers and collectors. This is immensely important work, and she does it with real diligence. One of the things that I admire most is the way Cindy has managed to integrate craft into the art and design shows at the MFA Boston. Looking around the galleries during my recent visit to the museum, I was struck that all the themed shows included art, design, and craft. For example, among the work chosen for the contemporary art exhibition, Love Languages, was a necklace by Keith Lewis and a plate by Howard Kotler, while another show called Hidden Histories placed Robert Arneson's ceramics and Bernard Sobinger's jewelry alongside the artists from Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas. Those of us who are champions of craft know that mixing fine art and craft is not historically typical for museum behavior. As far as I can tell, that this is happening at Houston MFA is due to the years of work Cindy has put into gaining respect for her arguments about the value of craft as an art form and building a magnificent collection of objects that demonstrate what craft has to say to a range of historical and contemporary issues. Many museums are trying to break down the silos that separate craft and design from fine art, but the Houston MFA is actually doing it. Not only has Cindy done a lot of work with the museum, but through her work on several boards, she has also contributed greatly to the field. I've worked with her on the ACC board, the Center for Craft board, and now the Art Joy Forum board. In every instance, she's attentive, she's read the material, she has thoughts and opinions, and she's willing to participate. And as we all know, this isn't always the case with board members in the craft field or more widely in the NGO factor. The active and thoughtful participation that Cindy offers enriches boards and the organizations they run. I don't know how long I've known Cindy. It seems like it's been a very long time, maybe before the turn of the century. I have been co-authors with her on the book Influx, American Jewelry and the Counterculture, and now I'm working with her to give my jewelry collection to the Houston MFA. She is diligent, hardworking, warm-hearted, and fun. Congratulations, Cindy, on joining the College of Fellows.
Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you to the ACC. I'm really honored to be joining the College of Fellows. Congratulations to all of my fellow awardees today. And I look forward to spending many more years working together in this field. Thank you.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Andrea.
On behalf of the American Craft Council, I am delighted to present the ACC Award of Distinction to Carol Sauvion. Carol, you are a giant in the nationwide community of craft. As many of our attendees know, you are the creator of the Peabody Award-winning series Craft in America and the executive director of the Craft in America Center. You are also the lead instigator of Handwork 2026, a former ACC trustee, and so much more. You were one of the first trustees I met when I came to ACC in 2022, and our conversation made a powerful impression. In that very first call, I think we found an immediate kinship in voicing our shared conviction that craft can change the world.
Mm-hmm.
In your profound dedication to advancing craft and its makers, you embody the French expression that you recently told me about when I visited you in Los Angeles, which translates roughly to from your head to your feet, or from your head to your toes. You are a visionary who acts, and you are all in. As a leader, you inspire those working alongside you to reduce the distance from inspiration to execution. Your passion is contagious, and you are uniquely skilled at weaving together heartfelt encouragement with high expectations and direct feedback. Thank you for all that you have done to elevate the work of craftspeople nationwide and to share their artistry with an ever-expanding community of appreciators.
Thank you, Andrea, and special thanks to the American Craft Council for not only the work you're doing now, but for the inspiration you've given all of us over these many decades. Thank you.
Oh, hi, Joanne. Hello, everybody. I'm Gary Smith, chair of the ACC board. I'm delighted to tell you a bit more about my friend Joanne Edwards. As San Francisco residents, my wife, Jamie Studley, and I supported, participated in, and benefited from the growth of the Museum of Craft and Design. From its founding in Elizabeth Arden's former apartment and salon near Union Square in 2004, to its 3 years as a pop-up in various locations around the city, to its incarnation as a cornerstone of the arts district that has grown up in the Dogpatch neighborhood on the southern waterfront. The path of progress has been steady, but not straight. A museum founder's life can be interesting, but it's never easy. Joanne can tell you about the day the Elizabeth Arden sludgy hot tub crashed through the ceiling during construction and damaged a fiber installation. MCD is a San Francisco treasure and got to that status because of the indomitable drive of Joanne Edwards. Jamie was on the board in the early days, and I'm channeling a little for her. Joanne approaches her work with boundless energy and enthusiasm. People don't say no to Joanne. She created magic and made people think they were part of the magic. She knew she had a lot to learn and set about to learn. As Jamie says, she continuously expanded her vision of what the museum could be and then made it real. MCD has hosted great shows of works by ACC fellows and other rock stars of the craft world, like Wendy Murayama, Robin Horn, Tom Lozer, Stoney Lamar, and Judy McKee, just to name a few. But MCD's also created exhibitions featuring lesser-known local artists, giving them exposure and sales opportunities and in shops. Its experiential exhibitions have allowed people to see the material world in new ways. And its Make Art afternoons and the mobile Make Art van have infused craft and design into the neighborhood and the community. So, on behalf of the craft lovers of the Bay Area and across the country, I say thank you to Joanne. There's no one more deserving of ACC's Award of Distinction.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you to the ACC Board of Trustees. I am incredibly honored to be in this company. Actually, I'm blown away. Thank you.
Hi, Chuck. You're on mute, but that's probably okay for the moment. On behalf of the American Craft Council, I am pleased to present you with the Eileen Osborne Webb Award for Philanthropy. Chuck, you served on the ACC Board of Trustees from 2013 to 2020, culminating in your service as board chair. You played a critical role during 7 highly consequential years, a time when ACC was acclimating to our new hometown of Minneapolis, and when we were navigating the hardest part of the pandemic. As a board leader, and reliably ever since, you have been one of our most loyal friends and generous donors. I started after your board term ended, but I have had the pleasure of getting to know you in person here in the Twin Cities at a number of events and in some very meaningful one-to-one conversations. I have to say that, like my first conversation with Carol Sovian, my first conversation with you made a lasting impression. When you asked me how things were going at ACC and how you could help, it was clear that you had a genuine interest in the answers. With your caring nature, your good humor, and your overall joie de vivre, you manifest a love for humanity, which, by the way, happens to be the original Greek meaning of the word philanthropy. You value the role of craft in our lives and society, and you continually invite new people into the ACC fold. You're someone I'm always happy to see and talk to, and I guarantee you that everyone at ACC who has worked with you would say the very same. Thank you for remaining such a close friend to ACC and for your unwavering moral and financial support. Congratulations.
Thank you, Andrea. It's a great honor. And I'm humbled to be on this program with such amazing makers. Congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Oh gosh, I love using color because first of all, with woodworking, there's not a whole lot of options. You got light brown, medium brown, dark brown, maybe purple, maybe yellow, but that's about it. And I think the very fact that it was once taboo to paint wood made you want to do it even more. I mean, I remember in the 70s, a lot of people were up in arms against people who were painting the wood.
I was invited to participate in the 2002 Whitney Biennial. And for that exhibition, I made a new installation of hundreds of black lace fragments that were pulled apart and positioned in an abstract topography over a large horizontal surface. What happened with lace, when you looked at it really closely through a microscope, it kept opening up and opening up in its structure. be it needle lace or bobbin lace or a tatting. The threads would hold the memory of their structure, so they weren't straight right off a spool. They were curved and had a myriad of interpretive possibilities, from garden and floral to insects. So I started just exploring lace through the structure of lace by scanning it and rematerializing it, by pulling it apart to find form.
The Rodney King incident, and I'm thinking the brutal attack on his physical body. And so I'm sitting in the park and I look down and there's this twig, and that twig sort of brought all of it together because it was something discarded. But for some reason, I just started collecting these twigs and started to make this cloth, this three-dimensional skin. And the moment that I sort of made this skin out of thousands and thousands of twigs, and then looked at it as an object, and then it dawned that, oh, I could actually put this on. And then the moment that I put it on and started to move in it, it made sound. And so that's how Sound Suit came about.
Going to school, late 70s for my brother and me into the early 80s, there was a lot of minimalism at the time. And I think that we've definitely reacted against minimalism. We love Mexican craft. We grew up with a big love of it from our family, from our parents. And of course, going to Europe, you see all of this embellishment and Catholic churches and all of this stuff. So we're sort of maximalists. We want that and we want that something else. And therefore, more and more seems to always be a better answer than I am this, therefore I'm not that. And I think that you can have enough content through layering of ideas that it doesn't have to exclusively be one reading. You can go ahead and choose a different path for reading the work. And we not only do we approve of that, we enjoy it when people come up with new ways of looking at work that we may not have thought of.
The work after, I would say 2000, like or say 1999, 2000, is totally different to me than the work that I did prior to that, because it is so much more descriptive of what I was trying to do. It was so much more important to me emotionally and physically, because the memories involved. My work is always about things that happen in places. I use places as metaphors and things that are in places as metaphors. And once I was able to really get into that, after I retired, it made a huge difference.
Culturally, I would say my furniture is heavily influenced by Japanese culture and, to a lesser degree, African culture. Shibui, it means simple elegance. It's a Japanese term. And my work has always been about form. And I'm very sensitive to form. I think that's another advantage of being a dyslexic. And I just at a certain point saw that, just as seeing my work as a whole.
And one of the experiences that we've heard about from many, many artists is during the filming, they're not only sharing their process and their intentions and their history and their environment, they're also taking stock in their own lives of what they've accomplished. And sometimes this is a powerful experience for these artists to say, well, I never stood back and looked at what I've done all these years. And sometimes it changes them profoundly. And then there are certain artists who have helped us to transform the audience's idea of what craft is. And I would talk about someone like Beth Lippman, the wonderful glass artist, and her unique perspective. I would talk about Joyce Scott and how she can be joyful and yet so powerful in the topics that she's willing and brave enough to discuss. So there are many, many artists I could go on.
It all starts in my imagination, and then from there I feed my imagination information by way of doing some research on the particular themes that I'm doing. But as I tell people, I don't sketch anything out. I kind of get a visualization process where I see images in my mind, and I just kind of get my chalk and lay out fabric and start drawing forms on the fabric and cutting them out. And so and as it builds physically in front of me, I could also see the image in my mind being more constructed and being put together. I did a Nelson Mandela quilt, and I did a variety of embellishments on there. I put little elephants that symbolize the strength. I put gold buttons that represent the gold mines in South Africa.
We, in 2020, opened a brand new building for modern and contemporary art in all media. We have the very first in the museum's history craft gallery. I've been dreaming of having space where I could rotate, install, think about objects for my entire career, and to finally see that and have that here has just unleashed a whole nother wave of projects I want to do, artists that I want to engage, works that I want to acquire.
About 10 years ago, I took a road trip through the South looking for African-American farmers and gardeners, and was able to have conversations with them, to talk about their history, what brought them to the land, how long had they been on the land. And so that became important to me. And I was struck by the anonymity of so many of the farmers and gardeners who aren't showing up in the magazines and aren't showing up in the books. And so that's, you know, I like the idea that the sculptures I made about the farms and gardens name the names, call attention to the legacy of it and the significance of it. And so for me, that's as a sculptor, getting to actually make these places known and the people who made the places known.
When I was in college, the person teaching textile history, her name was Lou Cabine. She was talking about how in her work, she realized that people were identified in disasters by the work that their partners had done on their clothing, like mends and repairs on the clothing. And so it made me think about how textiles and skin are connected to each other, that we treat them in similar ways. Because if you damage a really good garment, you repair it and you suture it and you do those kinds of things. And if you hurt your body, if you get a wound or a cut, the doctor stitches it. So stitches are these important things. And our cloth, the cloth on us is like a second skin. So I just started thinking about how I could merge this idea of repair and healing and scars with cloth.
My primary work has been with African and African American makers. I did a program which was a 10-year initiative called The Will to Adorn, and it really looked at why people choose to wear what they wear in African American communities. And I thought of this as looking at aesthetics of African American dress. One of the first things that came up was that, in terms of conclusions, was that dress was a matter of heritage, of aesthetics, also of identity, and also resistance. So one of the ways that freedom is manifested still in African American communities is in the choice of things to wear.
In the very beginning, the story was very much about the history of the Pueblo Indians and the Southwest, and autobiographical. But as my recognition grew, the narrative grew. And at some point, it became a dialogue about the human condition, using all these elements. And it no longer became ethnocentric or autobiographical, but it became a narrative of a much broader scale of humanity and the human condition and our existence and our place in the universe as time and space and where we exist in the past, present, and future. And this became the narrative.
Yeah, I do like to kind of like living in my imagined world, like something that you can sit in it, but it looks like a sea creature, or so like it kind of like a combination of like shape or form that I learned and experienced from in our environment, but also like I kind of play with my imaginary world, that what if type of a creature, or kind of combining that, trying to avoid kind of fitting into a thing. That's something that probably I was like that since I was little.
I see the craft field now as having more possibilities. I think there was a time when it was very siloed. And so there was studio furniture, there was, clay, glass, wood, metal. And now there's a lot of crossover. Artists are working in different mediums, they're blending mediums. And I think that allows for even more creativity.
There's a real satisfaction that I feel when I see young makers succeed. We had a program when I was there where new makers could take space together, so it was less expensive. And I think there was some camaraderie that made everyone feel better together. And to me, it was a great accomplishment to see those makers graduate to their own space over time and become successful display artists at the shows. So that meant a lot to me.
I appreciate the multiple ways in which the American Craft Council addresses diverse aspects of material making, creating opportunities and supporting artists and makers in very practical, economic ways, as well as showcasing so many different kinds of practices and points of view.
We've reached the point in our program where we're going to ask all of our 2024 ACC Award recipients, that's right, all of you, please turn on your cameras. We'll give you a moment to do that, and then remind you what's happening next. And also, please go ahead and unmute too, if you like. I think if you unmute, I don't know, I'm asking my colleagues who are running tech for help, and it's starting to happen. This is good. This is what's supposed to happen. All of the awards recipients should be starting to appear.
I'm glad you're here. This is not
Not letting me.
It's not letting me open my video.
Open.
Yeah, same for me.
Well, so I can see a lot of you.
It says you can't start your video because the host has stopped it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just give it a second and see if we can give our fearless tech people a chance to catch up, maybe.
I want everyone to see me blowing kisses to them.
Can't get mine to start.
Yeah, mine either.
It took mine a couple of minutes to start.
Okay.
I guess I could be heard.
Yes, I'm hearing a number of you. I'm seeing quite a few of you, though I admit I'm not seeing everybody on the main screen, but let's just give it another minute or two. And then what we're going to do for everybody who is in the audience and wondering, what is this all about? What's going to happen? What we're hoping to do here is be able to see as many of our recipients as possible. ACC has mailed to all of our recipients what I'm just going to refer to as an awards folio. Having signed these, I feel like that's perhaps the best description. You have not yet seen them unless you went ahead and opened them, but we were hoping that you would wait so that we could all do this together. And I am going to ask one of my colleagues running tech to just please put a note to me in the chat whether we should kind of take the next step here or wait a couple minutes more, or what you'd like me to do. So looking for a cue from the tech folks. Okay, we'd like to spotlight everyone, but we have hit our limit. So we are going to go forward. Award recipients, congratulations again to all of you. If you have your envelopes there, your packages that were mailed to you from ACC, this is the time. Please go ahead and open those. Like the real sound effects going on here as these are opening. Oh, so in the chat, well, I don't know what to read this or not, because we're just getting to the moment now where you're all opening these, and hopefully somebody will hold one of them up to the camera and maybe we'll be able to see it, maybe not.
Wow.
So these are hand bound. These folios are made by someone here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Handmade paper, bound together, calligraphy, signed by Gary and me. Congratulations to you all.
Wow.
Beautiful.
These are amazing. These are amazing, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Yes, beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Really beautiful.
Hope you treasure them. And now we'll see again, you know, the technology, sometimes it works as well as we like, sometimes not. So what's supposed to happen next, let's give this a try, is that we are going to have a toast that is offered by Gary Smith. And for this, we are going to invite everybody. Again, we'll see how it goes. We're going to invite everyone. So wherever you are, all over the United States and beyond, if you are watching this program, you can feel free to put your camera on. Please please keep yourself muted, but go ahead and put your camera on. And Gary is going to offer a toast to our recipients. And if you are watching and you poured yourself a special beverage of some kind, this is the time. Please, you know, go ahead and, well, it looks like an air glass, but you all can see it's there. Please go ahead and get that for the toast. And Gary, I think it's whenever you're ready at this point.
Hey, so everybody, please. The background, I think the glass sort of disappears. But anyway, raise your glass with me if you would, please.
Still can't see. It's still no video. But I'm here with my glass.
All right. Well, so let me just say, the makers we honor today have created work that fill our lives with beauty, joy. They may challenge us to see the world in new ways or comfort us with gentle objects of contemplation. Most of what we see is just plain fun, something to delight in again and again. A lot of the work prompts me to ask, how do they do that? Many of the makers are also educators. They share their knowledge and insight with younger generations. They're also mentors, directly guiding our new makers and creators, putting the world of craft expanding and taking root in new places. The curators call
Go ahead.
our attention to work. Yeah. All right.
Could I ask, I'm just going to go ahead and ask the entire Zoom room. Please, if you're not Gary Smith, please check to see if your microphone is muted, and please mute it. It will help us to hear Gary a little bit better. Thanks. Sorry, Gary, for jumping right in there.
All right. Okay, so many of the makers that we're honoring today are also educators sharing their knowledge and insights with younger generations. They're also mentors directly guiding the way for new makers and creators. Assuring the world of craft is expanding and taking root in new places. The curators call our attention to work that's worthy of our attention and help us understand and appreciate what we see, placing it in historical, social, and cultural context. Through the creation of documentaries and museums, we have places and ways to see, learn about, celebrate, and engage with wonderful objects and their makers. And thanks to philanthropy, we can turn on the lights, mail out the magazines, and build the infrastructure that holds the craft world together. Our honorees today join a pantheon of some of the most important contributors to the world of American craft. Each of them has earned this distinction through a lifetime of exemplary work. It's ACC's honor to recognize, celebrate, and thank these wonderful people. Thanks and congratulations.
Cheers. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Tom Lozier. Thank you to all of our awards committee members and our awards presenters. Thank you to everyone who has joined us this evening. And congratulations once again to all of our amazing 2024 ACC Award recipients. This does bring our formal program to a close, but we plan to keep the Zoom room open. Now I'm really wondering how this is going to go, but this is in theory what's going to happen. We're going to keep the Zoom room open for a few minutes for anyone who would like to remain and try unmuting yourselves and participate in some unstructured social time. And again, we can just see how this goes. I do want to make sure you all know this is the end of the formal program. Thank you again. If you do need to sign off, we really appreciate you taking time to spend this afternoon with ACC and our award recipients. Have a great afternoon and evening to all.
Thank you.
Thank you. ACC.
Thank you very much. This was really great. Congratulations.